Acer's new Helios Neo 16S is thinner and lighter than ever before, and with RTX 5070 Ti graphics, an OLED screen, and a premium design, it's got a lot to offer for the price. But thinner gaming laptops always come with trade-offs, so let's see what Acer got right and what you need to know about before buying in this review. It looks nice and sleek with a dark matte finish on the metal lid, metal bottom, and plastic interior. Build quality is alright. There is some flex to the keyboard and lid, but only if you're going out of your way to push it. It feels good during normal use, and the screen doesn't wobble when typing. The front could be a bit easier to get your finger into, but it's balanced well and opens up one-handed, and the screen goes back a bit further than most other laptops. The hinges flex a little if the screen gets pushed back too far, so avoid that. Otherwise, they move smoothly and feel good. For some reason, the hinges are covered by a protective plastic covering. It's annoying to get off, as it goes into an area you can't reach. So I gave up and left mine like this for the rest of the video. This thing is a massive fingerprint magnet, but fortunately it's pretty easy to clean with a microfiber cloth. It felt a bit bloated from a software perspective, with random stuff like Dropbox pinned to the taskbar and pop-ups about their deals, ads for Google Play Store, and more. But that should be easy to fix with some uninstalls. The Neo is on the thinner side and feels nice and portable, though it is a bit deeper compared to others like Lenovo's Legion 7i, as the back section sticks out a bit. The Neo weighs almost 4.9 pounds or 2.2 kilos by itself, increasing to 6.6 pounds or 3 kilos with a relatively small 230 watt charger included. This makes it one of the lightest 16-inch gaming laptops tested so far, with the last gen version being 20% heavier despite having lower specs. It gets heavier with the charger included, but Acer are using a relatively lower powered 230 watt brick here, and that's a double-edged sword, because on the one hand it's lighter, but on the other it means the 5070 Ti graphics aren't fully powered. And along with the 5070 Ti and its 12 gigs of VRAM, we've got Intel's Core Ultra 9 275HX processor, 32 gigs of RAM, and a 16-inch QHD+ 240Hz OLED screen. But it's also available with lower specs for less money with the link below. And if it has a good sale, we'll list it on our gaminglaptop.deal site so you can save money. The keyboard has 4 zones of RGB backlighting, and all keys and secondary functions get lit up. Key brightness can be adjusted between 4 levels or turned off with the function plus F11 and F12 shortcuts, but there's no shortcut for swapping between effects. That's done through Acer's included Predator software in the Pulsar lighting section. You can set it to global, which syncs the keyboard with the logo on the lid, or you can select area to customize the 2 areas separately. You still get 4 brightness options, but there's more control over effect direction, speed, and color customization in here. The keyboard feels alright to type on. The presses are a little tactile with 1.5mm of key travel, but it's a bit softer compared to the Legion 7i I covered last week. I appreciate that we've got full-sized arrow keys, but they come at the expense of a shorter right shift and 0 key on the numpad, both of which aren't an issue with the Legion. The power button is part of the keyboard, but a quick accidental press doesn't do anything. You have to hold it a little longer for it to sleep, though you can adjust that in Windows. I'm not a fan of the plastic touchpad. I mean, it works well, it just feels a bit softer or mushier to click compared to the Legion that I was testing at the same time. I much prefer that. Port selection is decent, and I like that thicker cables such as power and HDMI stay out the back and out of the way. Unfortunately, there's no Thunderbolt 5, and I would've liked the Type-C ports on the sides. As both support charging, it'd be nice to have more options where you can plug in, or at least have some port icons that make plugging stuff in on the back easier. There's plenty of space for them. Like other Acer laptops, you've got to watch out when plugging in the power cable. It might feel like it's in, but it needs an extra push until it clicks. At least there's a good mix for connecting a monitor to discrete or integrated graphics. Connecting to DGPU gives better performance in games and VR, but connecting to the iGPU for lighter tasks means quieter fans. Getting inside requires removing 10 TR6 screws, all the same length. It was a little tricky to open, but not too bad. You'll definitely need pry tools. I'll leave a link to the ones I use below. Inside, we've got the battery down the front, 2 memory slots just above near the middle, full-sized M.2 storage storage slots on the right and left, and the Wi-Fi card on the far left. It comes with older Wi-Fi 6E, but this is still above gigabit speeds, and basically matches the Legion's Wi-Fi 7, as those MediaTek cards aren't as good as the Intel and Killer options. Speeds from both PCIe Gen 4 drives were good, and the microSD card slot was fine, but this card can achieve 2 to 3 times these speeds in other laptops. The card clicks in and sits the full way into the laptop, so no risk of bumping it, but it also means you need some fingernails to get it in and out. The upgrade score is okay for a 16-inch gaming laptop, but I always take off half a point for using uncommon screw types, as that just makes it harder for people with regular tools to get inside. The spec sheet doesn't say whether the M.2 slots support faster PCIe Gen 5, so I'm assuming they don't, but I confirmed both can fit double-sided drives no problem. The speakers are found towards the front on the left and right sides, and they sound okay for a gaming laptop, but definitely more tinny than I'd like. The Latencymon results weren't great in our 5-minute idle test. Speaking of sounds, it plays this obnoxious one on boot. Fortunately, you can disable it in the Predator software or BIOS. Acer also gives you the option of customizing the boot screen with your own image, which is unique and kinda cool. The Helios Neo 16S is powered by a 4-cell 76 Wh battery, so it's smaller than the 90 Wh battery found in last year's Helios Neo 16. But the 16S is also a slimmer design. Unfortunately, the screen is locked at 240Hz, so you can't even manually lower it to 60Hz to save power. You can limit the battery's maximum charge level to 80% in the Predator software to help the battery last longer, as keeping it fully charged all the time can degrade it. Battery life was decent compared to other laptops with Intel HX processors if we factor in its smaller size, almost lasting for 5 hours in our YouTube video playback test. It's actually lasting way longer compared to last gen, despite that having a higher battery capacity. It only lost 18% of its battery charge while asleep for 24 hours. But this isn't a fair comparison with the other laptops, as it depends on the size of the laptop's battery. Here's how much battery power was lost on average per hour, which is a fair comparison, and it's one of the better results so far. Let's check out thermals next. The CPU and GPU are covered by a standard cooler with 2 heat pipes shared between them. Acer says they're using liquid metal, but they don't say if it's on the CPU, GPU, or both. And like usual, one of the fans is metal. The Predator software lets us swap between different performance modes, which from lowest to highest are quiet, balanced, performance, and turbo. The fan control tab isn't available in quiet mode, but it works in all other modes, and lets you either set the fans to auto, max speed, or you can customize them individually with sliders. Only turbo mode applies this overclock to the GPU by default, and there's no way of customizing it in Acer's software. There's a mode switch key above the keyboard on the left, and the software gives you the option of using this to either swap between the different performance modes, or to act as a shortcut to enable turbo mode. The button's light is a different color based on the performance mode you're in, but I found it hard to tell between performance mode in purple and turbo mode in pink. I don't know why they didn't use a more obviously different color. We also had some instances where the button shows blue, indicating balanced, but Predator Sense says it's in turbo, so they somehow get out of sync. The internal temperatures are fine at idle. The rest of the results are from combined CPU and GPU stress tests, which aim to represent a worst-case full-load scenario. There's not that much of a difference in temperatures between the different performance modes, as fan speeds and power limits change, but setting the fans to max speed did lower temps quite a bit, of course at the expense of louder fans, which you'll hear soon. It wasn't much warmer with the lid closed, so no problem if you want to dock the laptop. It was a little cooler with a metal stand to lift the back up, and that was equivalent to using a cooling pad at a lower fan speed. Increasing the fan speed at the expense of fan noise lowered temps more, but if we max out the laptop and cooling pad fans, the CPU temp rockets up. That's because, like most laptops tested this year, once we've got an excess of airflow, CPU power gets prioritized at the expense of GPU power in this test. But apart from that, turbo mode was consistently running the 5070 Ti at 100 watts, watts. Nvidia's control panel says it can go up to 115 watts with dynamic boost. So this is not a full-powered 5070 Ti, as that can go up to 140 watts. The CPU power is also on the lower side at just 35 watts. I know it's a thinner laptop, but Lenovo's Legion 7i is thinner and runs the same CPU at 55 watts in this test, with its 5070 at 115 watts. I suspect this might be a limit of the smaller 230 watt charger, because clearly the cooling is handling this workload fine. Well, at least the internals. Maybe not the keyboard, but we'll get to that shortly. The lower CPU power limit means lower CPU clock speeds, but we can still run games well. Here's how an actual game performs with the different performance modes in use. I've got the native results in purple and DLSS upscaling on balanced in red to boost performance. DLSS gets us to 60 FPS on the lowest quiet mode. And forget about playing games with a Type-C charger connected, because we found it unusable. The CPU can use more power in a CPU-only workload like Cinebench, where the GPU is idle. Performance on Type-C was much better compared to the game, and turbo mode was only scoring 3% higher than performance mode. But as you'll hear shortly, the fans are louder too. CPU performance is on the lower side when compared against other laptops running the same processor. To be fair, it is a thinner laptop, so the CPU was thermal throttling at 100 degrees Celsius in turbo mode during this test. But Lenovo's Legion 7i is thinner too, and that scored almost 11% higher in multi-core performance. At least it's 26% ahead of the last-gen Neo 16. Performance lowers if we unplug the charger and run on battery power, but it's one of the better results now, and closer to the Legion, though that still maintains higher single-core performance. It's kinda crazy that it's beaten by a 13-inch tablet, and that it's 83% ahead of the last-gen Neo 16. As for keyboard temps, most laptops I test are in the low 30 degrees Celsius range on the keyboard at idle, and the Helios was in line with this and felt cool. Of course, it gets warmer when under load, but it's quite hot, at least in quiet mode. Balanced mode was a little cooler, as the fans run faster to counter the higher power levels, but it's still uncomfortable feeling in the middle. Performance mode feels similar. The rest and WASD area are cool, so no problems while gaming. It's just that the middle feels warm. Again, same deal in turbo mode with the fans on auto, and it was running cooler with the fan set to max. But of course, this makes it way louder too. The hottest point was near the center towards the back, and it was warmer compared to most other laptops. Though, as we saw, the areas you'd actually touch while gaming were lower. It's significantly warmer compared to the hotspot around the arrow keys in the last gen model, though the fans were a little louder last gen too. Let's have a listen to the 16S. The fans were only just audible when idling in quiet mode. They get louder in the higher modes, and turbo mode with the fans on auto wasn't too loud relative to most other laptops tested. Again, it's slightly quieter compared to last gen, though the compromise of that, plus the new thinner design, was the warmer keyboard temps. Given performance mode still performs quite well, you could absolutely run with less fan noise and still have a good time. Alright, screen next. The Helios is using an OLED panel this year, and just like all the other OLED screens we've tested, it looks great with vibrant colors and deep blacks. It's a little brighter in HDR mode, but still around the 400 nit mark when set to 100% brightness. This puts it right in line with most of the other OLED panels that we've tested. Interestingly, Gigabyte's Aorus Master 16 uses the same panel model, but that got a fair bit brighter with HDR, so not sure if that's just panel lottery luck, as brightness can vary a bit between screens of the same model. Screen burn-in is always a possibility long-term with OLED, but the Predator Sense software has some options to help reduce the risk, though only dark mode and transparency were on by default. Other negatives of OLED panels include PWM flickering, which can give some people a headache after long use, and the glossy screen, which is more reflective and can be annoying if you're working in a bright environment. Screen response time was amazing. OLED panels are super fast, and that's the case here too, with all transitions occurring occurring in less than a millisecond. It's one of the fastest screens we've tested, along with all the other OLED options. The panel in last year's Helios Neo 16 wasn't OLED, but it was still quite quick relative to other laptops. It's only a little faster compared to the last gen model in the total system latency test, which is the time between a mouse click and when a gunshot fire shows up on the screen in Counter-Strike 2. Anyway, it's fast, no problems here. The Helios has advanced Optimus, allowing you to automatically get better FPS in games without a reboot. It's also got the classic MUX switch, but that needs a reboot, and I can't think of a reason you'd need to use it, as it doesn't affect which ports connect to the integrated or discrete GPU. G-Sync is only available with Optimus off, but there's adaptive sync from the integrated graphics when Optimus is on, so no screen tearing however you play. There's a 1080p camera above the screen in the middle, and it has IR for Windows Hello Face unlock, and here's how it sounds while typing on the keyboard. Alright, let's see how well Acer's Neo 16S performs in games. We've tested it with these settings for best results. Cyberpunk 2077 wasn't quite as good compared to the other 5070 Ti laptops we've tested at 1080p. MSI's cheaper Vector 16 was reaching a 13% higher average frame rate, but hey, the Helios is ahead of Razer's far more expensive Blade 16 with 5090 here, likely due to the CPU difference. At 1440p, MSI's Vector still had a 9% lead, and it was 15% ahead of the Legion 7i, which I'd say is Lenovo's competitor to Acer's Neo 16S, though that maxes out with the 5070 and just 8 gigs of VRAM. The Legion had fewer dips in performance in Alan Wake 2 at 1080p, as shown by its higher 1% low result. This is likely due to the Legion being able to run its 275HX processor at 55 watts with the GPU loaded up at the same time, while the Helios is limited to just 35 watts. That difference matters less at the higher 1440p resolution though, where the Helios's higher tier 5070 Ti puts it 16% ahead of the Legion's lower 5070. That said, the thicker laptops with the same CPU and GPU were reaching 39% higher 1% lows, as the Vector in particular is able to run its CPU at 95 watts with the GPU loaded at the same time. The differences were smaller in Black Myth Wukong at 1080p. The bigger 5070 Ti laptops are still ahead, but only by like 4 FPS, though the gap increases a little at the higher 1440p resolution. Still, the Helios is close to the magic 60 FPS sweet spot at high settings without even using upscaling. Not bad. These games are still playable with ray tracing enabled with the help of a little DLSS, if you're after some extra eye candy. I don't think I've mentioned before, but the ray tracing settings I've chosen are based on work from Tim at Hardware Unboxed, so they actually offer a meaningful visual improvement compared to other games where RT doesn't make much difference. I appreciate that Acer are giving us the option of the 5070 Ti here, as the 12 gigs of VRAM will be a better sweet spot for the 2560 by 1600 screen, unlike Lenovo's similarly sized Legion 7i, which maxes out with RTX 5070 graphics and 8 gigs of VRAM. Here are the 3D Mark results. Content creator results were good, and there was less of a difference between the thinner Helios and that thicker MSI Vector, which had more of a lead in the games. Combined with the OLED screen and microSD card slot, this could be a good option for creators. Though, let's be real, I think most of us still use full-sized SD cards. The BIOS looks fancy, but there isn't much customization available through here. Linux support was excellent. The only thing that didn't work was the button on the top left of the keyboard to change the performance mode, so I'm guessing that Windows or Acer's software is needed. Pricing and availability will change over time, so check the links below the video for updates and to see if there are current sales. Because if the Neo 16S does have a good sale, we'll add it to our gaminglaptop.deals website. We update that every day to include all the best sales. So make sure you check it out regularly to save money on your next gaming laptop with that link below. At the time of recording in late July, we're looking at $1,550 without sales for the RTX 5060 version, which I think is too high considering the 5070 Ti version I've tested in this video has gone for $1,900. That's kind of an amazing price for an RTX 5070 Ti gaming laptop, considering that thinner designs like this usually cost more money. For context, Lenovo's Legion 7i with lower tier 5070 graphics costs more than $200 extra. Sure, there are cheaper 5070 Ti options that perform better in games, like MSI's Vector, but this one is cheaper because it's not as premium. So is Acer's Helios Neo 16S worth considering? Let's break down the good and the bad. Starting with the good, the Helios is thinner and lighter than most other 16-inch gaming laptops, making it nice and portable. The option of RTX 5070 Ti graphics means you can get 12 gigs of VRAM, the OLED screen looks great, the internals run relatively cool without the fans getting too loud, and although battery life isn't amazing, it is a nice step up from last gen. As for the bad, the thinner design means the keyboard gets warm in the middle under load, though it stays cool where your hands actually sit while gaming. The CPU and GPU don't get as much power as other laptops, but that's a trade-off for portability and a smaller charger, and realistically the performance is still pretty decent. I'm not a fan of the touchpad, and the bloatware is annoying, but at least that's easy to fix. Honestly, the compromises they've made to keep it thinner and lighter aren't that bad. I don't have much to complain about here. If you're after a sleek and portable gaming laptop that looks and feels great, while costing less than its high-end competition, then Acer's Helios Neo 16S offers a great sweet spot and is worth considering. But if you're after better gaming performance for less money, check out MSI's Vector 16 over here next. It's not quite as portable or premium feeling, but if you care about getting more FPS for your dollar, that one's hard to beat. I'll see you in that one next.